back at this outline that shows the kings and the emperors of these two kingdoms, you'll notice that Darius the Mede took over in the year 539. He reigned for about 3 years. And upon his death, Cyrus the Great takes over, who was related to Darius. Because Darius had another name. Exegesis. Cyrus was his dad. And so this is why Darius the Mede becomes the nominal head of the alliance. We're going to encounter Darius here in the next chapter here. But we're not there yet. So Darius takes over, the nominal head of the alliance, and for a period of years becomes the most powerful man in the world. And his right-hand man, his nephew by marriage, was Cyrus. All right, finally, what should we learn from this? What should we learn from this? Let's take this story, and I want you to think for just a couple of minutes, just a few minutes that we have remaining. What can I take away from this, besides interesting facts or tidbits from history? What can I learn that's applicational to me? Are there any moral lessons, any useful lessons that should stimulate my thinking? Number one, first one, ask yourself this question. Do you, like Belshazzar, rely on the reputation of an ancestor? Your father, your mother, your grandfather. Belshazzar did. Belshazzar did his very best to tap in to the history, to the legacy, to the reputation of this great man who'd gone before him, Nebuchadnezzar II. He relied on that. He relied on that. He played upon that. That was his strength. He leaned upon that. And of course, we discovered that was a mistake. And it did not save him in the end. So there's a lesson for all of us there. Whatever the great accomplishments of our fathers, the honor of our mothers, whatever our ancestors have done, that doesn't mean much for you. And others really aren't going to judge you based on your father, or your grandfather, or your mother. They might give you a little extra grace. They're going to evaluate you the way you evaluate everyone else also. Amen. On your own merits. Number two, item two. Do you, like Belshazzar, think that your material circumstances makes you invulnerable? Belshazzar made this classic mistake, that the great city walls of Babylon, reputed to be impregnable, would provide a defense. And so he did not feel like he needed to provide any unique level of leadership. The fact that his leadership was lacking wasn't a big deal. After all, he had these massive walls that had taken decades and decades and decades to build. These massive walls made him invulnerable. Now, we don't have walls in our lives like that. But we certainly have other walls that some of us may think make us invulnerable. Walls of wealth. Wealth serves the exact same purpose. Wealth, money. In our world, money protects us. If we have wealth and physical assets, we think that may protect us. Maybe there's other relationships we lean upon that maybe feel should protect us. We're kind of surrounded by other quality people who will protect us, or our financial wealth, or our assets, or whatever it is. There are other walls that we hide behind. And we think these will make me invulnerable. But they won't. It's a great mistake in your spiritual life to think that they will. Item C, third one. Do you, like Belshazzar, use activity and busyness to distract from obvious looming trouble? Now, this is easy to do. Very easy for all of us to do. I'm sure I've been guilty of this as well. I mean, when we see trouble looming, we don't have, our first instinct really isn't, let me go confront it and deal with it. Our first instinct is to accept whatever distraction is present and say, oh, I'll think about that instead. And so we allow, sometimes very happily, allow busyness, activity, things of this nature to distract us from what is a plain, obvious, looming problem that needs to be addressed. And Belshazzar did that in a big way. this religious festival with lots of the activity and the hullabaloo that's going on inside the hall distracted him from this tremendous threat that surrounded him that he really would rather not think about. Item D. Do you, like Belshazzar, do you maintain a false show to others rather than to address your flaws? Surely many of us, all of us, myself included, have had a tendency to do this. A false show. Belshazzar worked very hard to maintain this false sense of power, bringing out the golden vessels of this little kingdom that his grandfather had conquered, and he was going to show these vessels around to show that he's still a big man, and we still have control over our empire, and so forth and so on, and we can still do great things, and strong, and we're mighty. And of course, it was all just a show. It was a show to puff himself up and to inflate his own sagging ego. He would have done better to take the bull by the horns and deal with the problem at hand, rather than cover it up with a false show to the folks around him. And finally, do you really believe in the sovereignty of God? We see this over and over again so far in the book of Daniel. For example, let me look at Daniel chapter 5. The second half of verse 21, it says, "Till he knew that the Most High God ruled in the kingdom of men, and that he appointed over it whomsoever he will." Do you really believe in the sovereignty of God? Now, there's a lot of people who say they do. I kind of think they may not. I can't read their mind really, and I don't really know what's in the depth of their heart. But it's just my opinion that many of us may claim to believe that God really is in control, but we don't really act like God is in control. We don't place a lot of confidence in God's control. We have a tendency to place a lot of confidence that there might be other factors and other people who control things. And of course, this is the origin of conspiracy theories.
Right.
Some of them are goofy. Some aren't. Conspiracies exist. Small fry conspiracies exist. Large conspiracies exist. Conspiracies are a part of the human condition. Amen. Teenagers conspire against each other about who they're going to invite to go to the Pizza Hut party. That's a small-scale conspiracy, isn't it? You've probably all been the victim of that at some point, right? And there's big conspiracies. Conspiracies exist. But too often, we don't allow God to be God. And in our thinking, and in our daily activity, the way we act and think and communicate with others, we don't really act like we think God is sovereign. That God can control all these conspiracies out there and all these evil men with their plans and purposes. Amen. Whoever they are. Yeah. And we don't trust in God and His real sovereignty and His strength and His power. Yeah. So there's a very important message, I believe, here that Daniel has repeatedly shown us in these early chapters, that God is absolutely sovereign. Our mistake is not that there are folks out there working against us. Amen. Our mistake is we don't have a big enough opinion of God.
Amen. Yeah.
That's our problem.
Glory
to God.
And finally, to return to a theme that I had mentioned briefly earlier. Remember now that God has His hand on His people.
Amen.
And we see throughout these early chapters of Daniel how God was watching out for the Judeans, yes, even though He brought destruction upon the little nation of Judah, and was angry with them and had sent them into dispersion here. God still did not forget them. And they were still the apple of His eye, and He was still watching over them, and He still was present there, looking after their needs. And that should be a great comfort to us and to our people. God is still interested in His people today.
Amen.
He's not forgotten Israel utterly.
Hallelujah.
And He's going to watch over us and care for us no matter what our circumstances.
Praise God.
Thank you for your time, and may God bless.